Before grunge exploded from Seattle into the mainstream, before Nirvana and Soundgarden became household names, there was a band called Screaming Trees. With a sound that fused psychedelic rock, garage fuzz, and introspective lyricism, they carved out their place as one of the earliest pioneers of the Northwest music scene. But beyond their influence and cult following lies a question that's intrigued fans for decades. Where did the name Screaming Trees come from? The answer, like much about the band, lies in a swirl of surrealism, irony, and art. Formed in Ellensburg, Washington in 1984 by brothers Gary Lee Conner and Van Conner, along with vocalist Mark Lanigan and drummer Mark Pickerel, Screaming Trees didn't take a conventional path to rock and roll. From the very beginning, they were more interested in atmosphere than image, and their name reflects that. According to Gary Lee Conner, the name Screaming Trees was inspired by an old blacklight poster. The psychedelic era had long passed, but posters featuring bizarre, dreamlike illustrations were still popular in record stores' stone owner culture. One such poster depicted a forest of twisted, anthropomorphic trees, their faces locked in silent howls. That visual stuck with the band, and the phrase Screaming Trees was born, not from mythology or symbolism, but from a piece of trippy wall art that perfectly matched their sound. The name conjured imagery that felt both haunting and absurd. Trees don't scream, after all, but in the distorted logic of psychedelia and underground rock, they absolutely could. It was a name that hinted at both nature and madness, stillness and eruption. It stood out in a time when band names were either overtly aggressive or overly sentimental. Screaming Trees struck a balance between poetic and unsettling, just like their music. At a time when hair metal was dominating the airwaves and underground punk scenes were exploding, the band's choice of name and their music felt like an echo from another planet. Their early work, released on indie label SST Records, was raw and jagged, full of fuzz-drenched guitars and Lanigan's gravelly baritone. But even as their sound evolved, the name remained a perfect representation of their identity, rooted in the earth but never at rest. When the grunge movement began to take shape in the late 80s and early 90s, Screaming Trees were already veterans of the scene. Though they were often grouped with bands from Seattle, they were geographically and sonically set apart. Their 1992 album, Sweet Oblivion, featuring the breakout hit Nearly Lost You, catapulted them into the mainstream spotlight. Suddenly, this band with the strange, evocative name was performing on Late Night with David Letterman and featured on the Singles movie soundtrack. Despite lineup changes and internal tension, the band kept their name and their singular style until their breakup in 2000. By then, Screaming Trees had become more than a band name. It was an emblem of a musical movement that resisted easy classification, a symbol of artistry rooted in something wild and ancient. Today, Screaming Trees remains one of the most respected names in alternative rock history. Their name, much like their music, still evokes a sense of mystery, rebellion, and reflection. It's not just a name, it's a feeling, a sound, a mood you can't quite define but never forget.